All right, guys, we're live. Kusama Demo Day. Best practices to launch a parachain on Kusama Network. We have a great coalition from Kraken, Parity, Interlay, and from a star. Once again, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I will hand it over to you guys and get started because we are on limited time. So take it away.
Great, thank you. My name is Brian Hoffman. I'm the crypto platform product lead at Kraken, and I'm really honored.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, I think we're losing people, right? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
You got everybody?
Button. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
We're back.
Great. Okay. Hi, I'm Brian Hoffman. I'm the crypto platform product lead at Kraken, and I'm honored to be able to host this panel. We're going to be talking a little bit about launching parachains, best practices. We've got a couple experts on the panel. We have Soda Watanabe, who is the founder for Star Network, who just recently won their parachain slot with Shedden, and it's now live, transferable, which is super exciting. We've been seeing a lot of interest and inbound questions about it at Kraken, and we're going to be trading live today, which is awesome. So thank you. We have Dominic Hartz, who is the CTO and co-founder of Interlay. His background, he's got several computing degrees. He's got a PhD in philosophy, which I'm sure comes in handy in the crypto space because everyone here seems to pretend they have a PhD in philosophy or economy, but you actually do, which is great. You guys just recently raised a seed round of financing, I believe, from blockchain.com and some others, which is impressive. And you guys are working on bringing Bitcoin to Polkadot and Kusama, which, hey, I love it. I'm a huge fan of that. And our last two panelists are coming to us from Parity Technologies. Santiago Balaguer is a full stack dev and product manager who's previously worked at Procter & Gamble before deciding to dump the baby diapers and shampoo and head over to crypto. He now works at Parity doing some ecosystem development. So we're really glad to have you as well. And last but not least, we have Ricardo Rius, who is a runtime engineer at Parity. So hopefully we can learn a little bit more about what that is exactly. Obviously, being able to upgrade the logic of the blockchain in real time is a pretty massive undertaking and a huge part of what makes parachains work. So we're happy to have someone involved with that on the panel today as well. So thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, so I just wanted to go ahead and kick it off. And this question, I guess, is for the folks working on parachains. So that's Soda and Dominic. How did you decide on building a parachain on Kusama? Like, how did you decide that was something you needed to do as a team? Maybe Soda, you could jump in on that.
Yeah, I can start. First of all, thank you for having me today. We decided to build a parachain on Kusama back in 2019, I think, because originally speaking, we did not have a plan to launch Kusama parachain, but no one knows when Polkadot parachain auction is, and the community really frustrated at that time, so we decided to launch Kusama parachain. And the Kusama and Polkadot is one of the most complicated blockchain network. So we have a lot of the things such as token economics, like technology, cross-chain messaging passing on Kusama. And then we would like to do the same things on the Polkadot. This is the reason why we decided to develop Kusama parachain. But there is a pros and cons. Maybe I'm going to describe later. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so also thanks for having me. And yeah, for us, the decision came quite short term. If people followed the Kintsugi chain that we're now going to deploy, and if you follow kind of the Interlay company and project, we started out with Polka BTC, and the original plan was to go for like a common good slot. So we actually spoke to Kusama Council a while back, and then it kind of came clear that we're going to build this decentralized network of these vaults that are going to take over Bitcoin essentially, but we needed a way to incentivize these people. So we kind of worked out, oh, maybe the common good model is not the best one for us and the best one for the bridge. And then we're like, okay, let's actually go with like a proper parachain slot and go into the crowd loans. And then it all happened in a very short time. So basically, parachain auctions like second batch were announced, and we're like, okay, we have 2 weeks to get everything ready. And that was a pretty crazy experience. And yeah, just the auctions just started. So for us, it's a very, very intense time. But I think like going live on Kusama is really great because you can. It's this canary network idea, right? You have economic value. You can actually validate your product, but you can validate your product in somewhat a chaotic, where people expect chaos environment, which I think as a product team is absolutely fantastic. Like, is your product working? But also, like, if it's not working, it's like a smaller kind of thing. If there's still some issues, like it's less value that might be affected if you screw something up. Yeah. So for us, it's good.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way to approach it with the canary chain. I mean, for the guys on this call, like from Parity, I mean, how do you guys see, like, looking from the outside in on these teams? Like, how do you think things have gone so far with the canary chain?
I think that they have gone even better than expected, to be honest. If I were to be completely frank here, when we were discussing as a team with the first 5 Parachains going live, we were expecting at least one of them not producing blocks from the get-go, right? And all of them, all 5 of them, just connected and started off the bat producing blocks, which I think was amazing. We had, and we were talking about this before, like what happened with Remark and a couple of things going on, but altogether, the experience has been, I'd say, quite successful so far, both technically of all these teams producing blocks, but also community-wise, right? There's been a lot of engagement into this crowd loans and auctions process that we've had so far in the Kusama ecosystem. And that for me is quite remarkable, yeah. So
for, for things to go so smoothly, it usually doesn't just happen that way, right? There's a lot of preparation that goes into it. So what kind of development and like design work is actually needed to prepare for your own parachain and for it to go smoothly?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can say something around that. Like, basically, it's really a lot of hard work just to prepare like the code to be compatible with Parachains and with the relay chain. So, I mean, like, really, all this was a long path. Basically, we didn't have access to Parachains since Kusama was launched, like 2 years ago. It was mainly like, it was kind of an evolution. We launched like Rococo version 0, I think it was Q4 of 2019, and then it evolved to version 1. Since then, we have been working directly with teams as Astar, or at that time it was Plasm, just to like deploy and help them basically make the process smooth. We got a lot of feedback from them, but yeah, probably also like they have their own point of view right now, like maybe Sota or Dominic can tell.
Yeah, Parity Technology is definitely one of the most trustful and very great developers in the blockchain ecosystem. And we talked a lot regarding Rococo network and how to make stable parachain and how to deploy contract, how to operate the auction and so on, and we improve step by step. I think this is the most important things to prepare for the parachain auction. And from the parachain perspective, there are a lot of different approach, like deploying smart contract on Ethereum first and issue token or something like that, or just focusing on the Kusama parachain. So we took the second approach, focusing on the parachain, because the first reason is we did not have enough resource, and catching up all the update is really tough. There are a lot of breaking changes from Parity Technologies, which is good things. And second thing is there was a reputation risk. There are a lot of the projects joining to the Polkadot, and early project tend to deploy ERC20 contract. In all the projects such as Plasm at that time, or Akara, Moonbeam, and so on, and Kilt, do not issue the token at that time. And once we issue the token on Ethereum, I think there is the bad effect on crowd loan, because the crowd loan participants can calculate the ROI. And staking ROI is generally speaking better than the crowd loan. It depends on the strategy, by the way. So we focused on developing Kusama Parachain instead of issuing ERC20 token.
So some of the teams that are thinking about doing a parachain may be wondering, well, yeah, I mean, I can look through the docs and find out more about how to do this, but what kind of like resources has Parity been able to provide to the community, or is that a Web3 thing, or like how have you guys helped people really kind of get their parachains out more effectively?
I can probably talk to it a little bit. And by the way, we do work with Ricardo a lot, hand in hand, helping on this, right? I do talk a lot with Parachain team, so that Dom, I've been talking with them a lot. Ricardo's there as well, helping them with any particular issues that they might be having on their code and whatnot. So there's like a lot of back and forth with these teams as well. But I'd say that in terms of resources, there are a couple of things out there that are quite interesting. First of all, and the first resource that comes to mind is we've got this element room that's called Parachain Technical, actually, and it's super insanely active, right? You're gonna see from Gav to like top substrate developers, CTOs like I don't know, like Dom as well, and engineers from the Parachain teams, all engaging into like very interesting and Parachain related discussions, trying to solve issues and making sure that everybody helps each other. And I've been, I'd say, quite amazed on how much like everybody has been working together to help with whatever issues might come from the different Parachains, right? So that is for me one of the resources that we as Parity are providing. Then we're running 2 testnets, right? We've got Rococo, as you guys were talking about before, and Westend. Both of them have like a bit different runtimes, Westend being a bit more like Kusama. So our objective there is to help teams like have a last test run on the WASMs before they actually commit them on chain. And then Rococo is a bit more fast, and like you could just get a slot for a couple of days, make sure that you test everything out, and then you come and go and have a couple more runs. And lastly, we do have the Substrate Builders program, but that starts even better, before with teams like helping develop the entire Parachain altogether from the beginning, right? So I could think of those 4. I don't know, Ricardo, if you think about anything else on your end. But there's a lot of like constant communication with everybody in the ecosystem, I guess.
I think one thing that you could also add is like if you get like a grant from like Web3 Foundation, they tend to be also quite helpful in reviewing your code. So like when we first got started, we actually got into this whole Polkadot-Kusama ecosystem via the Web3 Foundation. Like when they basically said like, hey, you have this paper about like a cool Bitcoin bridge, and we're like, okay, we're academics, and they're like, yeah, but don't you want to build that? And we're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then we got started actually with the Web3 grant. So we wrote like a specification, proof of concept, and then like it built out over time. And I think that that's a relationship that's super valuable. And yeah, then it kind of grows into that. And I think the other cool thing that Parity also has is like there's this Cumulus workshop to kind of test out your runtime and to set up like local development environments, because testing is everything. Since this is super ambitious, right? You want to launch a chain that immediately, ideally via XCM, can send all these messages, but then you kind of need to make sure that people are on the same software versions, and it's good to test that way. But yeah, so I would say Web3 Foundation and the Cumulus Workshop has been super helpful in addition to that.
So you brought up go ahead.
Yeah, those are really good points. I would say, like, for example, there are like one of the big things about the grants from Web3 are basically giving feedback and helping teams to like really create the best, like really exploit and get the best outcome from that program. It's not just about funding, it's really about like helping them ramp up. And yeah, about the other thing about the Cumulus workshop, that was kind of quite exciting. We released it on Rococo version 0, and it was mainly like started by Yoshi, that he now works on Moonbeam, and then I took it over, and then we have been like just making it better. And yeah, it has been quite exciting just because a lot of teams mentioned that Parachain template and Cumulus workshop really helped them to ramp up. So that's really good that we have done at least a really good job on helping them create Parachains.
Yeah, I think being able to engage with the people building the network is really important. So what do you guys think was the biggest challenge as you progress towards the auctions? I guess that's also for maybe Sota or Dominic to answer.
Yeah. Santiago mentioned it before this conversation actually, but the toughest thing is how to manage unknown parameters, like duration of the auction and the rule, how to decide a winner, and also the date of the auction, obviously, and the incentive scheme, and Kusama price. So we had to make our own strategy before knowing unknown information. So it was pretty tough. So we strategically announced our strategy step by step and disclose a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And yeah, actually we had a weekly meeting with Kraken, and we shared what we learned in a week, each week. So it was very helpful.
Yeah, we were kind of all going back and forth, like, when are they going to start? Blah, blah, blah. We didn't know what was happening. We learned together.
Yeah.
So maybe, Dominic, what do you think?
Yeah, so I agree with Sota, like on the economics, like how do you actually structure a token model that makes sense to everyone? I think we have a bit of an advantage situation because we didn't go for the first batch of auctions, right? So that was likely even a bit more intense, but now it's like this, at least from the first auctions, we know some data, right? We know how much people contribute roughly and what models are out there and what other people are doing. I think still like this current batch is also quite competitive. So for us, it's very interesting. Yeah, the token model is definitely one of the critical things to get right. And then the other one is just to make sure that your tech is ready. I guess you, when you test on like Rococo and Western, all these test networks, you get a bit of like block production anxiety, or what Santiago already mentioned. Like he was really happy all 5 teams produced blocks when they went live. It's exactly that thing. Like you submit your runtime, and you're like, oh, will your collator do what it's supposed to be doing? And I think that's on the tech side, like the other big challenge, like just making sure that everything works correctly.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how the next batch of auctions goes. We're going to have to get you on the Parachain Auctions podcast to talk in depth about what you guys are working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Parachains are pretty unique in many ways, but one I wanted to talk about real quick is you have a massive amount of Kusama being locked up into these crowd loans to support you guys, and they're not going to see this for a long time. That's a pretty amazing amount of commitment from community members to support you guys like that, not knowing how these things are going to go. Like, what have you done to incentivize the people in your communities to actually participate and support and like trust you, and then also contrast that with like what maybe hasn't worked so well?
Yeah, we have been working on Polkadot for more than 2 years, and we got around 7 grants from the Web3 Foundation. So being very loyal to Polkadot is a very important first step. And yeah, and also we decided token economics, and we have done lock drop, so we distributed our token to people first. So token holder advertise our network, especially in China. So it was the great strategy for us. In the regarding the Parachain auction, it is not general auction, it is a candle auction. So we should incentivize people to join our crowd loan as soon as possible, rather than joining the late of the auction. We need a KSM from day one. We don't need a KSM at the end of the auction, because this is a candle auction. The winner will be decided retroactively at the auction. So, but many people do not understand this rule. So it was very hard to educate the market and the community in the rule of our strategy. So next time I would like to improve this point.
Mm-hmm. From our side, who like obviously haven't won any auction yet, so I can what worked and what hasn't worked. I cannot really say yet so much what hasn't worked, but what we took as an example from like projects like Shiden and Karura and Moonriver going into the first auctions is like, yes, reward early contributions. Like, so we also do like an early reward bonus if you join the crowd loan. We're doing referral programs as well. So that's something that when we talked to the other project, they said like, yeah, let's make sure that you get the community involved and engaged. But there is another point that I think is super important, and that is essentially by yes, the community locks up KSM to vote who gets the next slot. And I think what makes sense is also what Sota you guys did is like this fair launch model. So the idea is like you get a new parachain, it's a new system, but you give it away to the community, right? And the community who votes with KSM is then the ones who will control your chain, right? They will get these tokens, and with that, they can decide the future and the fate of this particular parachain by being participating or like by being the ones that will drive governance. And I think that's the that's the cool idea. And then you give them the roadmap together with what your product can do, and then they're like, hey, yeah, this actually makes sense. Let's follow these guys on their journey, and let's steer whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I could add maybe one more thing that just comes to mind. And I do believe that also the way that the Qualdon module is built, right, where people can say, all right, I know that this blockchain, right, the Kusama Relay chain would actually give me back my KSMs when the slot ends, or if the team doesn't get a slot, and just like put the trust on this, like almost 1,000 validators that the Kusama Relay chain has. It's something that also builds on making it easier for people to just like lock their KSMs and rest assured that they will get them back, right? I think that also helps into the entire story of it.
Yeah, you know, I think the teams have a lot of like flexibility in how much they want to like raise and where they set the caps and stuff, and how they reward their contributors. We recently saw Kilt just maxed out their crowd loan. They actually sold out. They're the first ones to do that, I believe, so far. We've seen several teams not perform all that well and not make a slot. What do you guys think is like, what would you recommend? You know, maybe this is for Soda because you guys actually won a slot, but you know, like, what would you recommend to those teams that maybe don't understand like what they should do to get people more excited?
Yeah, we learned a lot from Kusama Parachain auction, so we are going to do a different strategy for Polkadot. And what we have learned from Kusama Parachain auction is that the first thing is the bonus rate. So this is a real example. In case of Karura, they distributed around 10% and 1% bonus. 1% out of 10 is 10%, right? But in case of Shiden, we distributed 20% and 2% bonus. So 2 out of 20 is 10%, right? So the bonus rate is the same. So this can be a problem to understand the token economics for general people who are not good at math. And the another thing is the hard cap. Kirito is doing great strategy. Their hard cap is much smaller than Akara, Moonbeam, Asta. So their hard cap is much easier to reach. So if you join the crowd round, their hard cap can be 20% of field or 30% of field, 40% of field. But if hard cap is very big number, it is very hard for the project to figure out the numbers. So for the next time, I think our hard cap is much smaller, so that we incentivize people to join the crowd run as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's crazy how like when we saw the first crowd loans open, right? When we saw Karura going first, and I think you guys saw that one second, and they started also just pile up on the first auctions. All of them had like this 1 million, 1.5 million KSMs as total money to be raised, right? Or like the objective of the crowd loan. And we were like, this doesn't make sense, right? The idea of having a cap is actually to say, this is the amount of KSMs that I need, right? That makes sense for me. And I think that what you were saying second, Soda, of how Kilt just put a number that was accessible by everybody, but also help people realize, hey, I might not get a slice of this pie, right? Because I can see everybody participating here, and if I just don't put my KSMs right now, I might get down this. I might not get on this train. So that also helped him to just have them max out their capacity, I guess.
I would say that's kind of the advantage of being the second, right? Like basically they were able to see how much the other teams were raising, and then like, yeah, I'm gonna put a cap in there, and that's how it worked probably.
Yeah, I think it plays a big role in like when you I think all the websites basically put in how much tokens do you get for your per KSM locked, right? And if you have these 1.5 million hard cap, then obviously your ratio is going to go down quite a bit. Yeah, it's quite a psychological thing as well, right? Yeah. I think when we did the first model, we were like, let's do like, I think we only wanted to do 1 million kint in total supply, and then it would have come out like below 1, and we're like, oh no, psychologically that's not smart to do. Let's use a different model. I think a lot of teams, also when I see it now, people have been, there's some sort of agreement almost like to have like above 1, but maybe not in the, I think a couple of projects have like a 10,000 or something of their governance token per KSM, but it's like some of the outliers, I think it's going to stabilize around somewhere in the middle there between like 100 and 1 token. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's obviously like one of the biggest questions we get at Kraken always is like, how many am I going to get for my contributions? So, and you know, and you're right, there is some kind of weird human instinct to want to have like 50,000 of something worth nothing rather than 1 that's worth a lot. Yeah. But you know, it's the yeah. So for the parity guys, you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier in the talk about communication with the teams, and it sounds like the teams have been engaging pretty closely. For the public, I think there's a lot more mystery around like, when are the auctions starting? Like, why are there only 5? And then we have to wait for another 5. When are the polka dot ones coming? I mean, have you guys thought more about like how you communicate to the public, like what the plan is for those? Or is it just kind of Gav? When we hear from Gav, that's that's the word.
No, yeah, for sure. I think that the first thing that I'd say is that what parity can do in the end, right, and this is quite important in my opinion, is suggest when the next slot is going to be, right? When the next auction is going to be. And in the end is Kusama governance that says, hey, I'm okay with this, let's do it or not, and discussion appears, right? So that is quite important in my opinion to just point out. But in regards to like the schema that we've been seeing so far of 5 slots, then just stopping for a little bit and understand the network, and then 5, it has to do with making sure that every step we take makes sense and that we can progress successfully, right? Because right now, if you look at what's happening right now, Kusama used to be this canary network with no parachains, right? Then state one appear, everything's fine, 5 parachains from the community, but these parachains were starting to just have more functionality, and now they got like real value in them, right? So it's not just let's put 5 more without really understanding what's going on. It's all right, let's make sure that we can sustainably progress into having more and more teams inside. However, what I think we're going to see is with Kusama being like this experiment where we see 5, then stop, then 5, then stop, probably poker could go smoother, right? If Kusama already paves the way to how this parachains will roll out. I'm not sure, but we could see that eventually.
I agree on that point. Like, I think it's mainly a technical restriction right now. Like, the whole code of Parachains, it's not completely finished so far. Like, we are so Parity is delivering parts of the code, and it's like just adding more and more code there. So we are making it more robust, and what we have been like seeing experimenting since Rococo version 0, version 1, and Western on each network, we tried to hit some limits on how many parachains we can have at the same time. So in order to increase the number of parachains, we also need to add some more complex code, and that code also needs to be like audited and all that stuff. So it's a lot about technical delivery.
And there's maybe another hint to look into, right? Rococo right now is ready to just support 25 parachains for this, between 15 to 25 parachains, right? So that's an interesting hint to pay attention to, right? If we say we've got a testnet that already can support more parachains, and at the very beginning, Rococo had parachains and Kusama didn't. So there are a lot of things progressing in that way, but we need to make sure that we roll out code that's bulletproof and works. And the other point to that is, I think Rob Habermeyer has just released a blog post when the second batch was announced about like what are the next steps for Polkadot. Because although an exact date can't be provided, we do know what the steps are, right? So we know that we need to add, we need to finish auditing the code. We need to add these, I forgot the name, Ricardo, what is it? Disputes, they go on chain as well. Like there are a couple of steps that we need to go for that whenever all of them are ready, well, I don't see why we're waiting any longer, right? So just following those hints, I think will definitely help.
Great. So we're getting very close to the questions and answers period of this talk. But before we do that real quick, one of my favorite things to do on the podcast is to ask everybody for a chaos score. Now, Soda, I know I got a chaos score from you, so I guess we get a revised one. It's a number 1 to 10, 10 being most chaotic, 1 being not chaotic at all. If we could just quickly go down the line and get a number from you guys, how chaotic has Parachains been for you so far? How about you, Ricardo?
Okay. Yeah, I would say probably, yeah, maybe would say a 7. Yeah.
A 7, that's pretty good. Okay. How about Dominic?
I guess for us, it's somewhere in the 8-9 range. Like we went all this way from like common goods to actually doing a token model and doing audits while at the same time. And then like, oh, Polkadot's going to be late. Let's go on Kusama. So it's been a pretty wild ride for us. So yeah, we're high up on the scale. Maybe even though I want to go for a 9 now, when I think about it like that.
Okay, Santiago.
I'll go for an 8.
An 8. Okay.
It's an even numbers. I like even numbers, so I go with an 8.
All right, and Soda, what do you think? Revised number? Are you going to stick with your old one?
Yeah, during the Kraken's podcast, it was 12, but I think it was something like that, 8. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I think we're getting
It's Kusama, right? Chaos expected.
Yeah, exactly. The official slogan is expect chaos. So of course you got to go with that.
Can I ask a question to Kraken? I think a lot of the people interested in the Kraken decision. So why Kraken supports the Kusama Parachain auction, even though other exchanges such as Binance Huobi did not support?
That's a really great question. Well, we always relish an opportunity to do something before our competitors. But yeah, I mean, I think, probably about 8 or 9 months ago when we started thinking about this at Kraken, we had spoken with some of the teams and onboarded some of the substrate tokens and learned a lot about the community. And it seems like a really underappreciated space for sure. I don't think that a lot of people have realized how unique and innovative the projects on top of the Parachains are. And it's a really unique ecosystem. So we're really excited to be a part of that and be at the forefront of that. And our customers have really enjoyed the product as well. So yeah, we just love the community for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, let's make it bigger together.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I think we're going to take questions. I'm not sure how we do that in this. Do we get them from the chat? Is that just how we're going to do this? I assume so. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see.
If not, I would like to ask the question to Parity. In the meanwhile, anyone can ask a question on the chat or the broadcast. So we're gonna have another 5 parachain to Kusama. And what is like a concern or like and advantages to have another 5 parachain?
So I think that the main concern overall, and maybe Ricardo can speak in more technical words than I can, to be honest, but it's overall network stability, right? Are we still being able to finalize blocks on the relay chain every 6 seconds? Is everything going smoothly? Are chains stalling altogether? Or like, is the network working fine, right? I think that might be the biggest concern for Kusama right now. So again, the plan is 5 more parachains on Kusama. And then let's wait and see how the network behaves, and see how we go from there, right? I was saying before about Rococo being able to manage more parachains, but the truth is that also Rococo doesn't have as a distributed network of validators as Kusama does, right? So Kusama has a lot of people from all over the world validating that network, right? And it's even more difficult to have that networking layer working properly, right? So yeah, altogether, I guess it's networking performance overall, but I don't know, Ricardo, if there's anything more technical to it.
I mean, that's a pretty good way of saying it. Yeah, like what I would also like check every time, it's one of the important things in Polkadot is finalization of all the parachains. So if that starts lagging, then that means that we need to push like new parts of the code there, and that could like show us that we are still not there to add a lot of more parachains, right? If that goes super smooth, then yeah, that's a good indicator apart from many others, but that's probably one of the most important ones that we can finalize all the parachains.
Got it.
Looks like we have a question. We got a question from Tomas. So is anybody able to explain why the Kusama network slowed down to around 1 block per minute about a week ago? Does anybody have an answer for that? It's pretty specific.
That sounds like a parody related question.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the specifics, to be honest, right now.
Okay. All right.
No, I wouldn't know how to answer that correctly, yeah.
Do we have any other questions? I'm trying to think. Like, how many teams do you guys think will actually bid on a slot for Kusama, you know, this time next year?
Oh, that's a very good question. So just the fact that we had, I think was it 16 or 18 teams on the first 5 slots? That was way more than expected as well, right? That is like having teams being ready for that. It's quite interesting. Overall in the ecosystem, our numbers say that we've got more than 200 teams building blockchains, right? With Substrate, which of them are going to be ready by this time next year is yet to be seen. But there's a lot of teams out there building Parachains with Substrate, right? So 18 going for the first 5 slots was a very good indicator. The competition that we're seeing for this next 5, the ones that are happening right now, is also quite interesting. We're seeing teams that applied for this 5 that didn't apply for the first 5. So I'm quite confident that we're gonna have a good number of Parachains going for it. What I'm super curious about, to be honest, and I do not have an answer for this, is how will all these auctions and qualos play out when we've got this on a more rolling basis, right? When it's not 5 and stop, but rather all the time a new slot coming in and change just going back to a birth rate and this in a more ongoing basis. That's what I want to see, and I don't have an answer for that, right? It's just like me trying to think into the future.
How do you guys predict what will be different for Polkadot? I mean, obviously Polkadot is a much bigger network just by volume and price and everything, but you know, do you think it'll kind of run just as smoothly and it'll just be at a much bigger magnitude or something different?
Well, I don't see why not. Yeah, sorry, we gotta go for it.
Just going with that point. Yeah, I would not really see a big difference, but we also need to think, like as you said, the network is much bigger, and that really creates also a different kind of pressure. Like we have more decentralization in there, and also when we were, for example, talking about staking, there was also like some issues that appear in Polkadot and we didn't see on Kusama because of the size of the network, right? So we, like, the code should work on the same way. Everything should go as expected, quite smoothly. But yeah, of course, we are gonna monitor like if there's any change because of the differences between the networks.
From the Parachain teams, is quite similar. I think like most of us will go live on the Canary network before and then go to Polkadot. So there's a lot of experience that we can collect on Kusama already. So I would expect that Polkadot is gonna go quite smoothly for us.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yes, well, thanks. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brian, for moderating. Thank you, everyone, for the great information. It definitely sounds like a little chaotic, but in an exciting and early days kind of way. Great information, and I really appreciate everyone coming for the demo. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Guys, up next we have Hang Yin, co-founder Network, talking about the ERC20 Cala Bridge and Fala mining and staking. And so stay tuned in the coming minute for that.